This week on Painting Lines.
I don't even think tennis should be in the Olympics. I'm a fan of like the Olympics should only be the sports where it's like the pinnacle of your sport. He used to be, probably don't even want me to tell this, but like he used to be in a One Direction cover band.
Oh, what?
And a bunch of people kept coming up to me, like asking me, like, "Are you gonna play? Are you gonna play this tournament? Are you gonna play pickleball?" I'm like, maybe, maybe there's something here. Like,
Welcome to the Painting Lines podcast, your one-stop shop for all things tennis. Join Eric and Aiden in their discussion for updates on news and pop culture, and from hot takes to betting, they've got you covered.
Ready? Play.
Welcome back to Painting Lines. Last week we had a fantasy draft of the best seasons ever with Quinn and Parth, and this week we're incredibly excited to welcome former American #1 and current pro pickleball player Sam Querrey. Sam, welcome to the show.
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, just to get us started, an interesting crossover actually with myself and you is I actually met you in 2014 when I ball boyed at the Napa Challenger because that's my hometown. And the reason I bring it up is because my first question relates to that. I was wondering what the kind of memories are like as a professional player, because you play in so many tournaments and some of them are massive, some of them are a lot smaller. So I was wondering, does it all kind of blend together, or are you able to kind of remember most of the matches or tournaments if you're reminded of them?
No, you can remember like very specific moments in tournaments. I remember the Napa tournament. I can't remember. I won it. I know that.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you who I played in the final, but I remember things like that whole trip. I played, it was like Napa, Sacramento, and Tiburon, 3 challengers in a row. I won all of them actually, but the Napa one was awesome. I stayed at someone's vineyard, but you can quiz me on most tournaments that I played on the ATP events, and I can give you like a specific little tidbit from I think every tournament that I ever played. You do remember those kind of specific things.
That's incredible. Yeah. I mean, because I remember Eric and I both read Andre Agassi's book Open. And when you hear him talk about all these tournaments he's played in, you're like, that's incredible that a professional player is able to remember all these incredible little details about matches they've played that happened so long ago.
Yeah, I don't know why that's the case, but I think I like when I talk to other pro athletes, like they remember it too. The place where I work out a lot is a bunch of football players, and like they can recall like certain plays from like an NFL game from like 8 years ago. It just I don't know if it's just like something that's like wired in pro athletes, but you literally can remember like these specific moments from your entire playing career.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a once in a lifetime opportunity to be in those tournaments. I guess maybe pro athletes are able to appreciate being in those moments maybe more than someone can on like a everyday sort of little moments.
I think so.
But yeah, so I'm assuming our listeners probably know who you are because they're all tennis fans, I'm sure. But just wanted to kind of get us started with a few questions about your career and your career in tennis, your career in pickleball, and then get your opinion on a few things. So starting at the beginning, when you were about to turn pro, you had a tough decision about whether to go to play pro or go to college. Was there a decisive moment that made you choose to go pro instead of going to college?
There wasn't a decisive moment, but it became pretty obvious. I was going to go play college tennis at USC, Southern California, not South Carolina. This was the summer of 2006. And then kind of that summer before school, I started to have a bunch of success in challengers. I won a challenger in Yuba City, and then I won the Winnetka Challenger, and then I won one other one, and then I got some wild cards into some of the ATP events that summer, and then got a wild card into the US Open, and then was able to, kind of meet with an agent and kind of, not sign contracts with, at the time it was with Prince and Adidas, but kind of like know what you can get. And I think by the time college started, I would have been ranked like 120 in the world already. So, fortunately I did well, so it wasn't a tough decision. I think if I was, ranked 350 at the time, I really would have gone like back and forth, like, I don't know what to do. But I feel like not going to college was a great call. I've never had any regrets. I love the choice I made. And fortunately, kind of everything worked out after that.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, is that something that college coaches have to factor in a lot, like when they're recruiting, whether or not the player will actually attend the school?
I don't think so. I think there's one-offs like myself that, it's pretty rare. Fortunately for USC, when I decided not to go, they picked up Robert Farah, who I don't know. I mean, he got to number 1 in the world in doubles. And all 4 years that I would have gone to USC, they won the NCAA title all 4 of those years. So I was only going to hurt. I could have only hurt that team. But I think 95% of the time when a college coach recruits a player, they end up going there.
Yeah, I mean the only exceptions I can think of are recent guys like João Fonseca, the Brazilian guy who was going to go to UVA, and he decided to go pro. Or
I don't even know who that is. So
yeah, or Alex Mickelson, who was going to go to
Mickelson,
UVA and then decided to go pro, but it seems to be working out for him too. So
yeah, usually it's like the guys that are doing that are like they're winning challengers or they're like having success in like tour events before college. And that just happens so infrequently that I don't think if I was a college coach, I wouldn't worry about it. It's like a good problem to have almost.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
So with the challengers and the like, I guess brand deals, were you making a lot of money before you even like thought about college? Was this like were you rolling in high school just kind of thinking I'm the man, I'm making more than my teachers? Or
No, I wasn't making anything then.
oh, you were making
It wasn't until
gotcha.
I signed with an agent, which would have been like, a month or two, maybe 2 months before USC started, that I decided I wasn't going to go to college. Where I signed with an agent, and then at that point, I had just graduated high school. Then it was like, okay, here I got a deal from Adidas and a deal from Prince, and then I started accepting prize money.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
yeah, I was still poor in high school.
But yeah, like you said, it was clear that you belonged on the tour. You broke into the top 100 real fast. And my next question is a couple years down the line, but in 2008, you got to go to the Beijing Olympics at 21 years old. And obviously you're already a top pro athlete, but did it still feel a little surreal to just be at the Olympic Games?
This is like an unpopular answer on the Olympics. Yes, it was really cool. I loved every second of it. I don't even think tennis should be in the Olympics. I'm a fan of like the Olympics should only be the sports where it's like the pinnacle of your sport. Like I don't know, I don't think tennis should be in there. I don't think golf should be in there. Basketball sometimes I go back and forth with. Like they have soccer, but it's only, their players have to be like under a certain age. So it was super cool to go to the Beijing Olympics. I lost first round in singles, and I lost first round in doubles like 2 hours later. But then I stayed for like 5 days and hung out. And to be in the Olympic Village and hang out with the other athletes and go watch the swimming and all the other cool sports was awesome. I elected to never go to the Olympics again after that. And a lot of the tennis players from the US too, a lot of them went 1 or 2 times and then didn't go other times. I think in tennis for me, I would rather win a Grand Slam over an Olympic gold. And I would also rather win I'd rather win Indian Wells or Miami over an Olympic gold. So I don't want to seem ungrateful, but it was so amazing to like go to the Olympics and be a part of it. But it's not necessarily like a huge highlight for me on my like tennis resume.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, because it definitely does feel a little bit like that when you watch the tennis in the Olympics, where you see the players care about it, but they don't necessarily care about it like you said, like they're playing in a Grand Slam or playing in maybe the biggest Masters finals either. Like right. Zverev 100% would trade his Olympic gold for a Grand Slam title.
Yeah, I didn't even know tennis was in the Olympics when I was like 14, 15, 16, 17. Honestly, I didn't like.
Wow.
And even now, tennis is in the Olympics. Like it's not like they ever show it on like NBC or any of like those like primetime spots. It might get like a little like, oh, so and so won the gold, and that's kind of it.
Over on ESPN.
It's overshadowed by every other sport.
Yeah, ESPN 8.
Yeah, exactly.
With the dodgeball.
It was on Bravo. The London Olympics, I remember, was on like Bravo Network.
Oh my gosh.
That's what they're showing the tennis.
Well, speaking of Olympics, I heard there was a possibility of pickleball in 2032. Have you heard anything about that? And you said you don't want to go again if you had the opportunity.
I've heard, I think it's in LA 2028, right?
Could be. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think the next one's in Los Angeles. Well, I'm saying that because I think pickleball's got a good shot to be
of the next one.
If assuming it's in America, which I think is 2028.
Okay. Yeah, 2028 is LA, yes.
Yeah. And I say that because I believe the home nation for an Olympics, you're allowed to like add 4 new sports.
Oh,
as long as that sport has like an association of sorts in like 75 countries worldwide, which like pickleball does now. And if you guys are in America, you see the pickleball craze. Like, if you're like, all right, what four sports are we going to add to the Olympics? Like, pickleball is definitely on that short list of like possibilities.
Yeah, I know they're talking about flag football too.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. I'm trying to think of like what, like, ultimate frisbee could be on there. Like,
Yeah, but I think you're right. Pickleball definitely is at the top of that list in terms of its popularity growth has been massive over the last like 2-3 years. And I can definitely see that if it continues to build over the next 3 or 4 years going into that Olympic Games, it could definitely be one of those.
And I don't know how that works, but like, it's at the top of the list. I'm at the bottom of the list for Team USA pickleball because like if it's anything like tennis, you got to send like 4 or 6 guys.
Yeah,
like I'm so far down the list of like American pickleball players. I'm at 70 right now or whatever it is, so I'm not necessarily a threat to make that team.
Then again, it could be it sometimes seems like there's a little bit of an interesting selection process. Some guys don't go. I know they actually just came out with the Olympic list for Paris, and I think some people were surprised that guys like Tiafoe or Shelton weren't going. And I saw that Giron was going. I think there's some, to an extent, sometimes guys choose not to go or choose.
Like, it's just like what I said. It's not a priority, really. Like I went to Beijing, it was cool, and then in 2012 it was London. I was like, I'd rather go play DC and Atlanta, or what, I don't even know what a tournament. It might have been Los Angeles and DC, and pick up ranking points and appearance fees, and that was more important to me at the time, just because like the Olympics for tennis, like it's not like on the top of my like things of I want to do.
100%.
Well, Sam, speaking of team tennis, like what are your thoughts on team tennis? Like Davis Cup, Laver Cup, do you like it or do you think it's kind of strange? Because I know you never played college and that's more of where the team aspect of tennis comes in.
I loved it. Like Davis Cup were like some of my most fond memories. I got to play maybe 15 ties or so, and like they're the best, especially the away ties where it's just kind of like, it's your team of 4 or 5 guys, but then you also have like, you got a coach, a physio, a stringer. You've got a group of like 15, 20 people with you. And it was amazing. I love those. I love playing world team tennis. I know it's not a thing anymore, but world team tennis was like one of my favorite things during the summer. It's like, it was so underrated. A lot of players are like, oh, it's such a grind and it's like meaningless, but it was so much fun. I loved it. And also going back to the Olympics, I think I would have been more into the Olympics, or I wish tennis in the Olympics was actually a team event. I don't know what the structure would be like, but I think it would be cooler if it was like form your team of like maybe it was 2 singles players, 1 doubles team, and whoever won 2 out of 3 against the other country, you kept going along. I think that would be a cooler Olympic experience than just having it be like an individual thing.
Yeah, sort of like a Davis Cup format.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, speaking on things that you were maybe more prioritized in your career, this is kind of a long question, but bear with me.
Yeah.
So you've beaten some of the greatest players of all time. For example, you beat Djokovic at Wimbledon 2016. You beat Murray Wimbledon in 2017. You beat Nadal in the 2017 Acapulco final. Was one of these matches like more special than the others, or do they all have like different aspects that make them uniquely memorable to you in your career?
I get asked that a lot. Like, what's your favorite win or biggest win? And I usually say like beating Djokovic at Wimbledon and beating Nadal in Acapulco is kind of like 1A, 1B. I probably put the Djokovic match maybe a little ahead just because it's Wimbledon and it's on such a bigger stage, and people know of, my next door neighbor who knows nothing about tennis knows what Wimbledon is. They don't know what the Acapulco tournament is, even though it's like a big moment to beat Rafa in the finals Acapulco. They don't know what it is. So I kind of go like beating Novak at Wimbledon 1, Rafa at Acapulco 2, and then beating Murray at Wimbledon 3. But they're all so close. They're all like, those are by far like my most fondest memories for big matches, my most exciting matches. Like, but the Novak one stands out a little bit more. That's the one that people like. I feel like if people ask me what match it was, or people bring up a match the most, it's that one.
Yeah.
Do you remember the handshakes at the net?
No, but like every time it was really nice. I mean,
It's cordial.
Cordial for sure. Novak is like one of the best guys, and was like, "Hey man, great job, congratulations, good playing." Rafa is, very much like kind of good, the accent, congratulations, you played amazing. I don't remember the Murray one as much in Wimbledon.
He's probably salty.
Novak and Rafa, I can remember those two, and they're both like they're grateful champions when being defeated. Like they're both incredible from that standpoint.
Well, going from there, I mean, obviously these are like the pinnacle guys that you've beaten. Were there any guys that you played in your career that you felt like are kind of overlooked by the tennis community that you were like, this guy is incredible and is just not
Yes.
really rated correctly?
Adrian Manarino.
Mm.
I was 0-5 against him. I made a comeback late, but like I was 0-5, 0-6 against him to start out. He just like, he's so and you guys have seen him play, just
Yeah.
lefty, but like super crafty. He's that lefty that stands way out and carves it and has that like disgusting forehand and shovels the backhand, but he's got talent and he was bald, so he doesn't like he doesn't look like he'd be that good, but he was just such a tough out, especially for me early on. I think like later on I figured it out and ended up beating him like 4 or 5 times in a row. But the first like 8 years of my career, I was just like, please don't put me anywhere near Adrian Manarino in any draw. I want no part of it.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
got
that's
such a
awesome.
funky game with
So funky.
how he swings. He has like no backswing on his shots. And one thing that I learned about that is that it's because he strings his rackets with like ridiculously low tension.
Yeah.
But honestly, he's had a lot of success recently. I know last year he got up to a career high ranking. So
Yeah, he was like, I might have got top 20 in the world last year.
I think so. Yeah.
He's all of a sudden like turned into like, it's one of the best players. And it's pretty, I mean, it's rare to see a guy like have his best year, like the 15th year on tour or whatever it is for. He's like probably a little younger than me. He's probably 34, 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not the young buck coming up with
No.
getting the success.
Oh, I have a funny Adrian story. So he was playing Djokovic and I threw it on the TV and all my friends, it was at a party. I was like, oh, put it on, put it on. And all my friends were like, this guy's a pro tennis player. He looks like the superintendent of my
No.
building. I'm like, yeah, he's a damn good
He
one
doesn't
too.
he doesn't look like, oh, that guy's
Yeah.
like a stud athlete, but like he's
Yeah.
everyone will tell you that. I mean, they might not say he's like the most like underrated player, but they'll
Mhm.
all tell you like, oh man, like this is just like it's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, not a fun guy to have to play
Yeah.
against.
No.
This is kind of an interesting question I just thought of, but when you take the different styles of countries, for example, like French players, American players, Spanish players, what are the biggest contrasts in the games or in the playing styles?
I don't think like one country has something like that, like
Hmm.
I feel like some Italian players, you're like, oh, like this guy, most of them are good on clay, but then like so you look at
Yeah.
Berrettini and he like finals Wimbledon and maybe clay's not his best one. And there's like some basic things. Maybe I feel like the French
Hmm.
players for the most part are all like a little flashy and with their
Yeah.
game styles. I feel like the players from like Norway, Sweden,
Let's go.
they all have like great, like compact, really solid backhands. American players, for the most part, like are kind of like aggressive, like big first serve, big first shots,
Hmm.
things like that. But yeah, I don't have like a good answer for that question. It's a tough one.
That was a
Seems
tough
like
one,
this day and age, guys can play on like every surface too.
right?
Like
Yeah.
I feel like Nadal is like probably like one of the six best grass quarters of all time. It's not talked about. Like he won Wimbledon multiple times,
Mhm.
final it a bunch of times, and then vice versa. Federer is probably like one of the five best clay quarters of all time. Like won the French, probably finaled it like four other times.
Yeah. Well, how many times do you lose it to the best clay quarter of all
Right?
time? It's
Yeah.
like,
Like
Yeah.
I don't know how many Master Series he won on clay. Probably like another like 10 or something like that. So
Yeah.
that's like not talked about that
yeah.
much.
Won the only one on blue clay.
I wish more tournaments were on blue clay. You turn on Tennis Channel, like on these clay court events, you can't see the ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Especially when all the players wear orange and yellow too. It's
Yeah, I
kind
don't
of
know what
funny.
like tennis players don't. I mean, all athletes they like resist change. Like they did the blue
Uh-huh.
courts. I thought it was great. Federer won it, and Nadal is basically just like, I'll never play on this tournament again if you make it blue, and they just went back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question, maybe a little bit too open of one, but is there any part of your career that you feel was like especially memorable to you that you aren't usually asked about?
That's good. I've never been asked that question before. I can't think of like a specific moment. I'm very proud of like the longevity I feel like that I had. I feel like I went like I played 16 and a half years and I feel like I was in the slams for the entire time. And I'm
Mm.
like that's something I guess I'm like proud about and happy with that I kind of went so long being like relatively injury free and just consistent with results throughout those years. I know my ranking may have fluctuated from from 11 to 80 to 20 to 60 to 30. But yeah, I was really happy with that. And looking back now, it's I miss the big like the big tournaments like Wimbledon and US Open. It's cool to look back and say that you like played all those. And not only played them once, I got to play them all 15, 16 times.
Yeah, got to go every year.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. And I feel like a lot of the road trips too, like the moments you have off the court with your team or like finding a new place, going, because I'm sure, it wasn't all tennis, right? All the time. You got to maybe see the city that you were playing in.
For sure. I mean, just the other day, like John Isner and Stevie Johnson and I were like best friends and got a group chat. We always talk about this. My favorite dinner I've ever had anywhere in life was in Geneva like 10 years ago. Isner got a tip from like an Ethiopian cab driver to go to an Ethiopian restaurant in Geneva. We didn't know what that was. And you go there and like we're sitting there and we got our coaches there. There's like 6 or 7 of us and you don't use utensils at an Ethiopian place. And like we have no idea we're eating, but we're just like taking our fingers and like scooping other people's cream spinach and like eating. It was just like it wasn't even good, but it was just hilarious and funny. And at times like that, I have 100 other examples of that. Like those are like some of my most like fond memories, like not on tour, but just in like life.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so moving on a little bit from your tennis career, you retired at the end of the 2022 US Open, but then less than 6 months later, you signed to play pro pickleball. My question is, was there like a crossover there in terms of like your tennis and pickleball career, or what was the timeline like with the transition between those sports?
So I had been playing pickleball. Yeah, that was end of 2022. I had been casually playing pickleball for like 5 years with friends in LA. But I'm home. I play once every couple months with guys that like aren't that good, but it was just more of like a social thing. Like, oh, our buddy has a pickleball court at his house. Let's go over and like play. We were good because we were tennis players, but we didn't know like the nuances of the game. And so, I decided I was going to retire at the US Open 2022 that summer. I didn't really know like what I wanted to do after tennis. And I went to watch like a pro pickleball event in Newport Beach because my best friend was playing. And when I was down there, like everyone that plays pickleball played tennis, like every single person. I'm kind of like walking around the grounds and a bunch of people kept coming up to me, like asking me, like, are you going to play? Or like, you going to play this tournament? Are you going to play pickleball? And then like, it just kind of like hit me. I'm like, maybe there's something here. Like pickleball was starting to gain some traction and steam. And so then I kind of like talked with my agent. I was like, I think I might try to jump into like pickleball here. Like there might be something. Like, do you want to like be a part of this? He's like, not really. And so then I kind of like looked at it a little more, and then I went and met with him. I'm like, no, like there's like people are like making money in pickleball. Like and like there's no tennis like you can't name at the time you couldn't name a pickleball player. I don't know if you guys can now or
yeah,
not.
the guy with the tattoos and the long
Tyson
Tyson
McGuffin,
Yeah.
There was like a couple people, but then like I was like, I think we can like, yeah. So then I just met with my agent, and then like I signed a paddle deal, and then signed a deal with like there was multiple leagues at the time. One of the leagues signed these like great lucrative contracts, like to go do this stuff, having like never played one before, and then just started playing it and, like more seriously, and I loved it. It's fun. It's kind of like icing on the cake for tennis a little bit. I maybe wasn't taking it as serious as tennis. So I'm not like 5-6 days a week training and whatnot, but I'm practicing hard, looking to get better. Coming from tennis, like I say, it's easy to get really good in pickleball. It's hard to get great. Like that first 90% is easy. That last little bit, especially now, like how many people are playing, like the pros are freaking good. Like everyone is good. So that's kind of how I just like fell into it, I guess.
That's cool. I definitely know what you mean about like, yeah, because I would consider myself a good pickleball player. And then when you play someone who's actually great, you're like, whoa, okay, there's a lot to be done.
They just do everything a little, every little nuance is just like better than you, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you just can't make a mistake either. Like if you pop it up, you're done.
Yep.
But do you think you can kind of explain the structure of pro pickleball? Because I know it's teams and you kind of get like signed on to a team, right? Like LeBron James, doesn't he have a pro team?
Yes and no. So
Nick Kyrgios.
Chaotic over the last like 2 years. Ultimately, there was 2 leagues, the PPA and the MLP. PPA was kind of like the ATP tour. It's like you went singles, doubles, mixed doubles. Then the MLP, Major League Pickleball, was these team things you were talking about. 24 teams, and yes, LeBron owned a team. I don't even know if LeBron knows he owns part of a team, but all these celebrities used to own teams. And so there was these 2 leagues, and you could kind of play both. But then like a year ago, they they said, no, you got to pick one or the other. And they signed all the players to 3-year exclusive deals, one or the other. But then they like merge back together. Then they unmerge. And now ultimately they're merged back together. So you play both. You play on the PPA MLP, it's a merger together. The PPA side of it is just like the HP Tour. You play your like 20 events. And then, yes, everyone was also drafted to these teams that just started about 3 months ago again. And there's like a team aspect of this. And I think players signed on these teams for 3 years, but it's like any team, there's like trades and drops and waivers and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
But in like pickleball in the last 2 years, you ask me that question again in like 4 weeks, I'll probably have a different answer for you. They might unmerge. And then there's also this like third league that people play in. It's absolutely bonkers. Like I would need a full like 3 hours to break it down for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's one of those things that happens because pickleball obviously has been around for a long time, but it blew up like crazy, I think probably during the pandemic and since then. And it's just been one of like the fastest growing sports in the US, especially recreationally over the last couple of years.
And I think the leagues, like it almost grew too fast. We're like, oh my God, like we got to like put tournament. How do we even handle this? It's growing too fast for us to like, and so they're, to give them kind of credit, like they're almost learning on the fly of like how to like do stuff and like create this league that has gone from like 0 to 1 million in a year.
Do you think the pro scene is on the path to becoming like majorly commercially popular? Because obviously, like I said, it's very recreationally popular, but it's not necessarily as popular in terms of like people watching it and stuff.
Right. That's the biggest challenge. Like when you go to these tournaments, there's thousands of people. The center court's packed. They have sponsors. It's on Amazon Prime. They've got tennis or pickleball TV. But the problem is just what you said. Like, if you go to pickleball TV or Amazon Prime, I think on any given day, there's 5,000 to 7,000 people watching it. You need to go those numbers way up to have like a very like valuable product. So it seems like it's more of like a participation sport at the moment and not like a huge viewership sport. And that's like the number one thing that the pickleball organizations need to like figure out how to do. Like, how do we get more people to like watch it on TV?
Yeah. And I think one aspect is like Eric was talking about, having guys like you or like Tyson McGuffin.
Jack
where
Sock's
you have
playing,
and
Didi
Jack,
Bouchard, Donald Young. They're bringing some tennis players over to try to give it a little like star power. But yeah, Tyson McGuffin and Ben Johns and Annalie Waters, they're the Federers and Serenas of this game.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So do you like playing singles or doubles better, or do you not have a preference?
Doubles and mixed doubles. Singles is hard.
Singles is hard, but it is so much fun.
And I don't like singles. I like doubles and mixed doubles. I like mixed doubles is my favorite.
Yeah. Do you have one partner?
I've been bouncing around.
Yeah, gotcha.
My problem is I'm like a really good GM. I keep finding these really good like female players that are kind of like unknown. They partner with me, but then they get good and then they dump me for like better players. But then that happened to me like 4 or 5 times.
You should be an agent part-time.
I know. Like I got the eye for the talent, but so yeah, I play with a different girl every time. Doubles, I play with my buddy Wes Burrows every time. Currently, I have a torn Achilles tendon.
I know.
So I'm not playing again until probably next year in January. But I'm assuming Wes, my normal doubles partner, will take me back. And mixed doubles, I'll just look around.
Yeah. What is different about the game, really, like in terms of mixed doubles versus regular doubles? Like what makes you like mixed doubles more?
I like mixed doubles more. The guy takes over about 70-80% of the court in mixed doubles. And I feel like mixed doubles favors like a lengthy guy who's a good athlete. Mixed doubles, usually the guy, if you're the dominant guy on the court, you're usually winning. And so if you can kind of like be athletic, make things happen, like get up for balls, and I feel like I'm a good athlete, and so I can that just helps me in the mixed doubles, where doubles is a little more like 50-50. You get your side of the court, your partner gets their side of the court. They can kind of like dink you to death, where in mixed doubles you can kind of create a little more and be more creative.
So like in mixed doubles, it's kind of almost like you can be super aggressive and know you have a little bit of backup with you, whereas in doubles it's like both of you working together, like kind of
right, you've got it spot on.
Okay.
I guess so. We've had a couple pros on here before, and I love asking this question because when I play tennis, I bench press, I squat, I do whatever the normal lifts are, but I want to know what's practical to work out for tennis. Like, what would be a few exercises that translate well on the court?
I mean, everyone's different. So
Uh-huh.
for me, for the most of my career when I was playing tennis, I hated working out. Like I'm not someone who liked the gym. I wasn't into weights. So usually I would go to like, I had a handful of like fitness trainers along the way, and I was like, just make it fun. I don't care what we do. It's got to be fun. So I would do a lot of stuff where I did a lot of shoulder prehab, like maintenance on my body, like with bands, a lot of core work. But I didn't do a lot of like lift. Like I basically never benched, never squatted. I would do stuff like it would be a ladder, like do a ladder drill, then run a post route and catch a football, or
Oh.
like go to the free throw line. Like we're gonna shoot 20 free throws. However many you miss, it's suicides on the basketball court. Or
Mm.
we do a bunch of like soccer drills. I would usually incorporate other sports or or do something or it was like some type of like fun game to keep me interested because like I literally I could not go to the gym for an hour and like all right, let's focus in on like heavy leg day. Like I wouldn't try that hard. And so yeah, Gina Ball was kind of like the fitness trainer that I had for a lot of my career. She worked for the USTA at the time. She did like an amazing job with me of like we're gonna make it really fun today and do these things.
Mhm. Oh, that's cool. I follow Tommy Paul's trainer on
Yeah, yeah.
Instagram, and he's always posting workouts, and they seem great. And I just
Yeah, and his trainer, I don't Francisco
Franco Ficero or
Franco.
something. Yeah.
Franco's girlfriend does like social media and photographer for the pickleball tour.
Whoa.
Chanel, she's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I see her in all the tournaments. So we're always talking, and like I'm good friends with Tommy too.
Oh yeah. You should get a workout with him when you're Achilles heels. You should train with Tommy.
Dude, I know I'm like terrified. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tear my other one now.
What is
Jeez.
the workouts look like for pickleball versus tennis? Do you do any of the similar kind of type of stuff like these games?
No, I should be.
Uh,
It's more of like I kind of like do more like elliptical at the gym, like treadmill. It's more just like playing. Like, well, I'll go practice a bunch of pickleball.
mhm.
I'll treat like singles pickleball as like my fitness kind of.
Mm.
Um, but I need to get back. I mean, I think I need to do more. I mean, not that the Achilles could have happened in anything. I think I need to spend a little more time in the gym doing more maintenance thing. I think I took it for granted a little bit that I was like, oh, I'm just a good athlete. I can just go out there and probably be good enough and figure it out. But the game is like we were talking about. It's elevated so quickly that people are like going to the gym all the time. People have trainers. People have coaches now. Like there's so much money on the line in pickleball that like people are trying harder.
Oh, tell me about it. Like when you're in a dink off too, you're getting low, your legs are burning, and you're laterally moving from side to side, like going back and forth. And then
Yeah,
by the end, you're like, oh my God.
I've cramped a couple of pickleball tournaments this year. Like it's like
Wow.
exactly your glutes are killing.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
you're playing correctly, it should kill your legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like running a 5-10-5 drill.
Yeah, exactly like that.
You're like, call out the physio. I need
Yeah.
it.
That's funny. Yeah, I had another question because I know like there was an overlap between your family, like having your
Yeah.
first couple kids and playing on tour. So I was wondering how you balance the two. Because it's always interesting to see.
Yeah, it was all, I mean, having a family was always like something
Yeah.
like so important to me and something I always wanted to do. And so it was a little bit of an odd dynamic because we had our first kid February 2020. We were getting ready to go to Indian Wells, and COVID hit, like when our first baby was 2 weeks old. So then there was like no tournaments for 6 months. And then it kind of started going again. And we traveled everywhere with like, for the most part, my wife and our one son at the time kind of came to a lot of the tournaments. Then we had a second son, and my last year on tour, like, we went to Europe for 6 or 7 weeks, and it was really cool. It was kind of, a difficult time, more so for my wife, probably because we had like a 2-year-old and a 6 month
Mhm.
old. Um, but it's cool to look at the photos of like them and the courts at Wimbledon and the US Open and things like that. And it was like a really fun time in our life. And I was actually supposed to play Wimbledon Legends this year. I was going to leave for London next week, and we were all going. So I'll hopefully do it next year so they can kind of
Yeah.
they're a little older now. I think they can kind of understand more of like watching me play. But it was definitely the last few years having them around and part of it was really cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And just kind of going off that, like with content creation, because I know you like to do a lot with your family. Your social media is awesome, by the way.
Thank
So
you.
I was just wondering if like being behind the camera comes natural to you. Like do you have help with editing the ideas? Are they all yours? And it's like the acting too, you know?
So it started, my wife and I started kind of doing it a little more, maybe like I don't know, 9 months ago, a year ago. Um, yeah, it was all us. We were like, these are the ideas, like these are the
Uh,
videos. my wife would do the editing. I had no idea the
Yeah.
editing. And editing's hard. Like I realize now, like that's like the hardest part. As far as like kind of the acting and like speaking in it, and that just kind of came naturally.
Yeah.
I want to call it acting. I'm not an actor, but like
Yeah.
just
Being
being funny
funny
and
and
comical,
yeah.
like just came natural. I've always thought I was like funny, and like that kind of came
Mhm.
natural. And then that kind of turned into like we have two kids. Like we do a video, and I don't know how to edit, and like we do one, and my wife would be like, "What, you want me to spend like 4 hours editing this?" And so the last like 4 or 5 months, we have help. I've got a social media company. This guy Charlie Fox, who used to work like did HP Tour Uncovered, very familiar with tennis. His team, so they help me now, and it's a combination of everyone. Like they come up with ideas, we'll come up with ideas. It's a continuous kind of group chat of like, hey, like here's a couple briefs for the week or the next few weeks. Let's do these. Or I might be like, oh, I got a better idea. Let's do this. They do all the editing, but I would say as far as like ideas and stuff, it's kind of like a 50-50.
Yeah. I'm not always on our social media, but I do think it's funny because sometimes I'll check in on it and I'll click on your Instagram story and it'll say like, oh, I'm in the middle of my 40-hour water fast. Or
Yeah.
I remember seeing that and being like, what's going on here? He's just so committed to this.
I just wanted to see if I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did. It was like, I don't even know. I had no purpose of doing it. I just want to know if I had the mental strength to do it.
Like
And
David Goggins.
I did. Yeah. Put the weight back. I lost like 11 pounds. Probably put it back on in like 3 days, but
Oh my
That's
God.
I'll do it again.
Tough mental struggle there. I
Yeah,
can only
well,
imagine.
Yeah, I think my favorite one was when you were going to a tournament and you lost pretty early and you're like, yeah, I don't deserve a nonstop flight home.
Yeah. I was coming back from a pickleball tournament in Minnesota, and I was so pissed. I just like got Southwest through Denver,
Yeah.
like, through somewhere else. It was just like,
Yeah.
Making
Um,
did it
light
for
of
the content.
right. Yeah. For the gram.
But it's fun. We really like, and it's fun because like my wife's kind of involved. We kind of can do it from home, and I'm having like a really good time like doing these videos and like kind of building the following, and like everyone seems to really like it. I've got like 100% hit rate as far as like reviews right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
2 fans here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. Kind of going back, did you have an idol, a tennis idol growing up when you were a kid? Like what made you want to pursue professional tennis?
No, I played like all sports: football, baseball,
Yeah.
basketball, soccer, golf till like 14 or so. I was always kind of the best at tennis.
Hmm.
And I didn't watch a lot of like tennis when I was younger. I didn't really watch like Sampras Agassi that much. When I started like watching tennis at probably 13, 14, 15, it was like Roddick was like in his prime. That was like
Yeah.
him winning the US Open. So, if I had to say one person that like never kind of inspired me a little bit, it was Roddick, but it wasn't like an inspiration. I like tennis, but and Andy was the number one American, so he was kind of the guy I liked watching. And then he couldn't have been nicer to me when I was like 16, 17, 18. Would always invite me out to his house in Austin at the time for training blocks for a week or two. And was super cool to me at a young age. And so he was kind of the guy that probably had like the biggest impact on me as a teenager.
That's sweet. And then did you have a favorite rivalry in your career? Like one guy that you liked playing the most?
I didn't have like a favorite one, but the guy I played the most was Kevin Anderson.
Mm.
I have to look. I think we played 15 or 16 times, and it was like 8-8, 7-8, 8-7, something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like playing him. He's like big serve, crush the ball, like.
Well, it's kind of like your style.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to play him. I want to play a guy that just like hits the ball right in my pocket every time. It's easy, but like Kevin was, and Kevin was so good, and like he was so good mentally. Like he was always dialed in, always tried really hard, like every point. And so just like you knew when you played him, it was just going to be like a tough battle. But he was the guy that I like played the most by far. It was like played him 15 or 16 times, and the next most, I don't know who, maybe like Novak at like maybe 8 or 9, and a bunch of guys like 6, 7, 8.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but that's I think most of our questions about kind of like your background and your career. But kind of wanted to move into this other section, which I titled in my notes here, "Queries for Query." Just got that little pun in there, but
I like it.
So just kind of wanted your opinion on a couple of these things. First up, speaking on an American guy, because you were just talking about Roddick, and this relates to you as well. Tommy Paul won Queen's Club, and he's the first American actually since you won it in 2010, and he became the top American. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on like the top Americans right now with 4 guys in the top 20, 3 in the top 15, and where that kind of leaves American tennis. Because like you said, with the tennis idol aspect, sometimes you kind of want that one guy that's like really at the pinnacle and is at like the 1 or 2 spot. And we've got a lot of guys in America right now that are really up there, but aren't necessarily at the Grand Slam winning type of level.
Right. I mean, it was awesome watching Tommy win that yesterday. I was talking to him on the phone earlier. Like he's like one of my favorite, just tennis aside, like one of my favorite people. He's so easy to cheer for. But yeah, like Taylor Fritz, Ben Shelton, Korda, TFO, Paul, they're all, like you said, between like 11 or 12 and like 25. They're all good. And they're maybe not at the top at 1, 2, 3, but like, Sinner and Alcaraz are so good. But like they're also not like Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. I feel like there was a time there. I feel like a lot of time when I played, I went into majors and I was like, I don't actually believe I can win one. Like, am I really going to beat Djokovic? Am I going to beat 2 of those 3 along the way? Like, no. But Sinner and Alcaraz, they're so good, but they're still a little vulnerable right now. With injuries, they might get bumped out. So I do think those 5 Americans that I just named, I think they have like maybe more belief than like maybe what like Isner, myself, Jack, Stevie had, because right now, like I wouldn't be surprised if someone ranked between 10 and 21 Wimbledon. Like, I think those guys, they all have big. I mean, Tommy Paul just won a 500 on grass. Fritz has a huge game. Shelton has a huge game. TFO struggling a little bit this year, but he's semifinal of the U.S. Open. Korda just final the grass court event. Like, they can all play on the grass. They have big games. So I hope one of them kind of breaks through and can make a past the semi, make a final or win it. But, I do think, to your point, I think maybe it does help sometimes if you had someone that was like ranked 1, 2, or 3. But I think these guys are working as hard as they can, and they're doing the best they can, and they're pushing on the door more so than like my generation was to like make impacts on these slams.
I see exactly what you're saying there, because I definitely agree. Like Sinner and Alcaraz, while they're incredible level, they haven't really reached kind of like that mythical status that Djokovic and Nadal and Federer were at, where they felt untouchable. Like while they're playing incredible, they feel like they're still, like you said, a little bit beatable to an extent.
Like I wouldn't be shocked if like Bublik beats Alcaraz in the round of 32 at Wimbledon. It's an upset, but not like crazy. Where like if that happened to like Federer in his prime, you'd just be like, oh my gosh, like no way.
Speaking on that, do you have a pick that you think is the favorite really to win Wimbledon?
I don't have a pick, but I was doing like a podcast like a couple of weeks ago, and I said just what I said. I was like, I think it's going to be someone between like 12 and 20. I don't think it's going to be Sinner, Alcaraz. I think it's going to be like, if you want to call it tier 2 level guy down, winning their like first slam.
I think it would be really cool to see someone like Dimitrov win it at this point in his career. That would be so cool.
That'd be really cool.
Because he's been playing so much better last couple of years. I mean, not that he was playing poorly, but he's kind of returning to like a top level form, and he's also timing that.
He didn't win a tournament for 5 years.
Yeah, he's got that second win.
He like won Brisbane. He's like back in the top 10. Like it'd be a really cool story.
Yeah, but a guy like that, a guy that you're not expecting, would be cool to see. I think, because I think while we have had a bunch of different winners at the past few Grand Slams, I do think it'd be cool to see another guy that's a little bit more under the radar.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd love an American to make the finals. Just like Wimbledon's probably the biggest event in tennis.
Yeah,
and just to have an American in the final would just create more of a buzz in America around tennis.
100%.
Great for the sport.
Is there any under the radar guy right now that you think is like doing better than people are rating him at? Not necessarily to win Wimbledon, but is there any guy that you feel like is kind of not being talked about enough?
No, I can't think of one on the top of my head. So if someone does like shoot through to like a semi of Wimbledon, it'd just be like complete like out of nowhere, because like I can't think of anyone right now.
Yeah, no, that whoever does that, that's the guy you were actually
that's the guy I was thinking of, exactly.
Oh, that's funny. How about, so going back to pickleball, do you see it becoming a collegiate sport where they will offer scholarships? And would that be a gateway to the professional league? Like you get drafted from college to...
Yeah, I don't know. Like
Huh.
a lot has to happen in these next like 3 years. I think in the next 3 years, if they can figure out how to drive viewership to TV, then yes, I think it becomes a college sport. But I don't think if that's like a gateway to the pros. Like
Hmm.
I think a lot of people in pickleball, like right now, you can just be like 16, 17 and go play pro events. It's hard to give a good answer to that though, because it's changed. Like I said earlier, I was saying it's changes dramatically. Like every 6 months, something different happens in pickleball with leagues and rules and what's going to happen. And so if they can figure out how to get it like on a straight line and get it going, yeah, I think it's going to be in college and getting people are going to get scholarships.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because I'm totally blanking on the guy's name, but he played tennis at U Chicago and then quit his senior year and just pursued pro pickleball.
No, I mean that's like every pro pickleball
Yeah.
player like played college tennis and
Yeah,
like goes.
yeah. Um, did you catch the Federer documentary on Amazon
I
Prime?
did. I watched it the other day.
What'd you think?
I thought it was good.
Did you
It's
cry?
better, so I feel bad saying I wasn't like blown away by it, but like
Yeah,
I want to watch a documentary of his like entire career in a way.
yeah,
Like I feel like I was like shortchanged. I want to watch
Yeah.
like what like behind the scenes of him going on to like the Wimbledon final in
mhm.
2008, 12, whatever it was.
The Last
The
Dance,
last 12
Wimbledon
days
version.
thing, yeah, it was really cool. It was almost just kind of like sad and like
It was so sad.
yeah, like everyone's crying and like I want a life documentary on him.
Mhm.
Would you guys like it?
I haven't seen it yet, but based on what I have seen about it, it kind of reminds me of the Murray documentary resurfacing, where it's about this important event, but it's not necessarily a triumph. And I kind of like to watch documentaries when I feel like there's successes along the way. So that's why
Same.
something like The Last Dance about obviously Michael Jordan is so great, is because you get to see them succeed. Whereas this, it seems kind of like you're watching a sad thing that I don't really.
Oh, great point. Yeah, I want him to go
Mhm.
back and like do a documentary of like the 2004 to 2012 years and like get me all hyped and jacked up, like
Exactly.
the shot making and stuff.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
liked it because I thought it was super raw with not only his reaction, his retirement, but the other players seeing
Yeah,
him retire too. Like seeing Nadal, Murray, Djokovic, and how they were kind of like acting around him was very fascinating. Like that whole social dynamic.
yeah. I still feel like he's like kind of Djokovic, Nadal, like say who you want is the best ever. Like I feel like Federer still looked at as like the top dog, the Tiger Woods, like the most
Hmm.
influential person worldwide in the sport.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, he's got that, like I was saying earlier, he's got that like legendary status. When he was playing, it was like, oh
Yeah,
my God, that's Federer. Everyone went to his matches. He was like everybody's favorite player. Like with Nadal and Djokovic, maybe they're better players. There's an argument for all these positions, but I feel like they weren't ever really looked at the same way as Federer being like almost like a magical presence on the
yeah.
court.
He sold out every stadium all over the world. Didn't matter where it was. Like it was packed for him, and they were cheering for him.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, Rafa was hilarious. I think my favorite quote of the whole documentary was in the locker room after his last match, and no, fucking Diafo.
Yeah. Anything Rafa says is funny.
I know.
Yeah.
And then he was talking about either Musetti or Sonigo, and he was playing them, and they were grunting
That's
super
right.
loud after
Yeah.
the point, and Berrettini was backing them up, fellow countryman.
That
Nadal's
that
no,
that
no,
was
no,
the
no,
coolest
no.
footage, like you're saying, like that raw footage in the
Yeah.
locker room after, like right after losses or wins,
Mhm.
whatever you want to say.
Yeah. My next question, because you've obviously been on tour for, you said 16 years, but what are your thoughts on Rublev's temper out there? Like I feel like it's getting to be, I think before it was kind of helping him, but now it's just not at all.
Yeah, I'm
Like his
fine with
little
it. Like
outbursts. Yeah.
I still feel like the overwhelming majority of the time, like it's good for him. He's like he
Hmm.
won Madrid. Yeah, he won Madrid
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. Against
He's still like top
FAA.
10. So like I personally think it's like good for him. That's just how that's what he needs. Just like how Murray always
Hmm.
yelled at his box and people did stuff. So like as long as he's not like smashing rackets all the time or like abusing like lines umpires and things, like it's to himself. He's getting mad at himself. He's
Yeah.
for the most part. And I think that's for him, like that's what he needs. And overall, I think overall it works.
Yeah, I mean, think of
Yeah.
someone like Kyrgios out there that can yell at his own box and get in his opponent's head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. right? I mean, like Kyrgios had I don't know what was going on in his head, but like yeah, he had to turn it into like a show of sorts to like
Mhm.
even like make it worth his while to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's funny how I don't know Rublev personally, but I've seen a lot of footage of him, and he seems like the absolute nicest guy, like funniest. And
Oh
then on
yeah.
the court, he just flips a switch.
Hey, when you're done with this
Yeah.
podcast, he used to be, probably don't even want me to tell this, but like he used to be in a One Direction cover band.
Oh,
You can Google that
What?
on YouTube. They got like
Oh
high
my God.
quality music videos and like Steal Your like what's the song? Steal Your Girl, like and he's singing, it's like really well done. I'm
that's
going back probably
incredible.
10 years, 12
That's
years ago.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that's kind of wraps up the interview section of this. Usually, what we do next is we hop into our segments, where we kind of have a what's new in tennis. We have a bet of the week and a match of the week. So obviously, we don't expect you to have brought one of those, but if you would want to stick around and kind of give your thoughts on
Yeah, for
these,
sure.
that'd be great. Awesome. So you ready for segments, Eric?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. What's new in tennis? What did you see this week?
Yeah, so Aiden loves when I report on relationships in tennis. So this week in tennis, we almost saw a back-to-back tennis power couple win because last week Deminar won in Hertenbosch and his girlfriend Katie Bolter won in Nottingham, and then this week Sinner won in Halle, but his girlfriend Anna Kalinskaya, she was in the final in Berlin and had 5 match points, but she couldn't close it out,
She lost
unfortunately.
the Pagula.
Yeah, I know. So, big win for the American right there. Uh, and I wonder if we'll see like these couples, these relationships play mixed doubles in Wimbledon, or if it's too distracting for them because that's a big tournament and they're, serious contenders.
Yeah, no, if you're contending for a major, you do not
Hmm.
play mixed doubles. Like if you
Which is
sign up for the mixed doubles, you're essentially saying like, look, I'm here. This is a great tournament. Like I'm not going to win it. So if Sinner is in the mixed doubles
gotcha.
draw, he's conceding these singles trophies at Wimbledon.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
be
Uh,
quite the move.
Aiden, what about you? What did you see this week?
Uh, my what's new this week was actually kind of related to news from the previous weeks, which is essentially about speaking too soon. So last week I saw headlines that were all about Djokovic. He's out of Wimbledon, but now he seems kind of borderline. And he's at Wimbledon and he's practicing, which is pretty shocking given the fact that he had his knee surgery like a couple of weeks ago. And also, it's not just me, but it was announced that, Andy Murray's not going to play in Wimbledon. And now it kind of seems a little bit up in the air. So I feel like we're seeing a little bit of falling into the trap of seeing a big headline, announcing on it, and then not necessarily having all of the facts checked. But it seems like there's still a possibility of Djokovic and Murray possibly playing in Wimbledon. So
Yeah,
that's my
I hope
word.
Djokovic plays. I was shocked when I kind of saw that, but like I also trust like Novak. I think Novak at like 70-80% can probably beat like 80% of the people in the draw. So like I hate saying that. These guys are so good, but like he could still be like healing and like get by a first round and get by a second round and maybe even a third round and like while his knee is like still getting better and it like buys him like another week.
Yeah, very true. The question I think for a lot of people is whether or not he it's like best for him to come back if he wants to do really well at the Olympics, because I know, like you said earlier, it's not necessarily the focus of a lot of people, but a lot of people have been hyping up the Olympics for Djokovic because it's kind of one of the last accomplishments that he hasn't
Yeah. No,
won.
for him, I think
Mhm.
that might have been like the thing he put like he highlighted at the beginning of the year. Like, what's the one thing you haven't won? The Olympics.
Yeah.
So that might be the biggest event for him this year.
Yeah, and so that does that factor into it whether he comes back for Wimbledon, because obviously you're coming back to play on grass and then going back into uh, Paris where they're going to be playing on clay.
I don't think so. As much as I think he wants that Olympic gold, I still think he wants a Wimbledon. I still think he'd take a Wimbledon title over an Olympic gold.
Mm.
Could be wrong, but that's what I think.
I think that's a. I think you're right. I think if you look at it just that way of Wimbledon versus Olympics, you're probably right. You probably want that Wimbledon more.
Yeah.
But what about Andy? If Andy doesn't play in Wimbledon, do you think he plays in the next year's Wimbledon and retires, or is he done after this? Because it was sad. Wasn't he supposed to retire
I
at
think
Wimbledon
he's
this
I think
year?
he's done. I think he's done.
Yeah.
I don't know if like that means like now or like I'm trying to think of what other I don't know what other tournament he'd
I
do
know.
that. Like,
I
but
know.
like,
US Open, maybe.
it's not like I don't think he can hang on for another year.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of my favorite players to watch, and these last couple tournaments have been watching him. He looks like he's in pain out on the court.
Yeah, it's not like he's giving us like glimmers of hope. Like, okay, like he gets it together this week. He can make it's like
Mhm.
maybe he can win around this week if like everything lines up.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so moving on, bet of the week. What'd you go for this week, Eric?
Yeah, I was pretty stumped this week looking at the lines, but I'm gonna take Zhang minus 115 over Kecmanovic. So my thought process here, Zhang just had a great run in Hala. He made it to the semis where he lost to Sinner, and he beat Medvedev along the way. So Kecmanovic has lost in the first round in his last two grass tournaments. I'm also throwing in a little fun prop bet here because listen to this. So I'm betting that the match will have at least one tiebreaker at plus 115 because out of the last two matches Kecmanovic played, every single game has gone to a tiebreaker. So that's 5 games, all tiebreakers. And then with Zhang, 4 of his last 5 matches, there is at least one tiebreaker in the match. So
Mm.
all in all, I think it's going to be a great match, like two heavy hitters. And yeah,
I like that bet. I mean,
yeah.
I've never bet on tennis.
You gonna ride
I
it?
think I can now, but I don't even know. I
Yeah.
still don't.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I like the Zhang over Kekmanovic there. Like Zhang's
Yeah.
playing well. Kekmanovic is like the results are kind of erratic during the year.
I
Yeah.
know. I saw him in Miami play Alcaraz a few years ago, and that was one of the best matches I've
Yeah,
ever
he's
seen.
so good
Remember?
sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Zhang in that too.
Yeah. Cool. What
Yeah.
about you, Aiden?
I'm going with American Eubanks versus Mensik for the match to go
Ooh.
over 2.5 sets. So my reasoning here is Eubanks and Mensik, both real strong servers. And I think, especially on grass, I think one of them is going to get a break in each set, and it's going to be a real struggle for either one to kind of get a break back. So I think that in the end, my hope is that Eubanks gets it done, and he's definitely been getting better results on grass than maybe he was a little earlier in the year. But I'm not certain on the end result, but I do think it will be a close match.
I like that. Who's he
Oh,
playing? Mensik?
Jakob
oh, you
Mensik, he's the 18-year-old. He made the final in Qatar, I want to
Dubai?
say.
Yeah,
Uh,
somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I
I,
know.
I don't even know who that is. I'm cheering for Eubanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
Shout
cheering. I
out
hope Eubanks
Eubanks.
beats Simono.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. Well,
Um,
match of the week.
yeah, so my match of the week is Sinner defeating Morojan 6-4, 7 or 6-7, 6-3.
The
And it's
headhunter.
the headhunter. We have, by the way, Sam, we have a nickname for Fabian Morojan. We call him the Hungarian headhunter
I like it.
because he doesn't necessarily always have the most consistent results, but then he'll show up and he'll beat Alcaraz or he'll beat Rude. And so we call him the headhunter. And he nearly claimed another this week, but honestly, it was just a fun match to watch. It was a very impressive mix of touch and power because Morojan kind of known for a little bit of a heavy drop shot based game. And with that, Sinner displayed super impressive mobility in terms of getting around the court. He had one point where he dove and got the ball and then ran back and made another shot and ended up winning the point. Not afraid to get dirty on the grass. And it's kind of interesting because I feel like that's an aspect of the grass court that you actually see a lot more often is people willing to go down and make those diving plays that they're not necessarily able to do on other surfaces.
It's fun not to like get off topic, but like I remember my first time like practicing on grass. I went to my coach like, all right, like I was like, I just want to dive. Like
Yeah.
I don't know work on anything but like a diving volley because you could do it on this surface.
Yeah. It's
Sam,
completely different.
when was the first time you played on grass? Like, was it a? I'm sure it wasn't common growing up, right? Was
No,
it
no,
the?
it was Wimbledon juniors.
Wow.
So yeah, 2005
Was it
Wimbledon juniors.
was it awkward being on there? Like first
Yeah,
time playing
but
on
it's
grass?
a little different. It's like awkward for everyone. You're like a bunch of
Yeah.
everyone's a little baby giraffe. Everyone's 16, 17, like kind of playing on it for the first time. So you're
Yeah.
all in the same boat, which I think helps a little bit.
Yeah. You have that one guy that's been playing on grass for like 5 years and he's just
A couple of the British guys, like,
Yeah.
but that was basically it.
That's funny.
What about you, Eric? What'd you go for match of the
Yeah,
week?
My match of the week was Tommy Paul taking down the number one Brit, Jack Draper, 6'3", 5'7", 6'4". Now we have the number one American Tommy. But Draper's been on a tear, so he just won Stuttgart, and he had just beaten Alcaraz the match before. He had a 3-1 record against Tommy coming in, so I thought he had the matchup there. But Tommy broke early in the first set, but then was immediately broken back. The second set was tight. Draper broke at the very end. It was 5-5 and then 6-5, and then he won 7-5. And then in the third, Tommy broke at 3-all and went on to win the match. But I just thought it was a great show of Tommy Paul's athleticism because Jack Draper was serving balling him a lot, and Tommy was covering so much ground and essentially came in with that mentality like, all right, I'm going to make him hit another ball, and just he did it. And it was a very entertaining match because it had the perfect mix of baseline hitting and serve and balling, which, Aiden, I love a good old serve and volley match.
Yeah.
And it was a bonus that Tommy Paul won.
Yeah, exactly. I watched that whole match. That was a fun one.
Oh,
nice to get the contrasting styles. You don't get as much as that nowadays, so it was cool to watch Draper serve and volley, and then, like you said, like Tommy hitting fun running passing shots.
Yeah. Like that passing shot he hit in Rome.
Oh, the one-hander?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Oh. Well, that wraps it up. So thank you so much for coming on, Sam, and we'd love to have you back in the future if you're ever interested.
Yeah, for sure.
But Sweet. Yeah, so that wraps it all up. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.